We analyzed the coverage of Breitbart's and Steve Bannon's decision to cut ties with a former contributor, Paul Nehlin, after the outlet said Nehlin made a series of anti-Semitic and pro-white supremacist comments on Twitter. It seems there are two stories here. One attempts to expose the hateful nature of Nehlin's comments, and the other tries to expose inaccuracies made by outlets that reported the first story. Both approaches are constructive in principle, but their execution reinforced some of the problems the outlets tried to point out. Here's a look at the coverage and where it fell short. Describing Breitbart's role with opinion and spin. CNN, Newsweek and The Guardian originally reported on Breitbart's and Bannon's decision to distance themselves from Nehlin. The outlets pointed out that Breitbart had published coverage that was supportive of Nehlin's candidacy in the 2016 Republican congressional primary. However, they did so by using opinion and spin, subjective, dramatic language, rather than strictly using data. For instance, The Guardian said Breitbart had aggressive pro-Nehlin coverage, and CNN said it was extremely favorable and highly supportive of him. Newsweek also referred to Nehlin as a favorite of Bannon's. None of these descriptions provide measurable data about Breitbart's relationship with Nehlin, nor which of his views the outlet supported or didn't. The outlets also suggested Breitbart and others, including President Trump and Republican lawmakers, were wrong to support Nehlin in the past, implying a type of guilt through association. This perspective could bias readers against the outlet and those individuals, rather than encouraging an open evaluation of Breitbart's previous support of Nehlin and the actions it took after his comments on Twitter. Incriminating juxtaposition. Newsweek provided the most data about Nehlin's apparent sympathizers and the people he follows, but then drew an incriminating correlation by writing. Former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke ran several political campaigns as both a Democrat and a Republican in the late 1980s and early 90s, but Nehlin's apparent open embrace of Jewish conspiracies currently puts him in a league of his own on the far right end of the spectrum. Juxtaposition is a slant technique that brings together sometimes unrelated facts, implying a relationship instead of directly stating it. Is Nehlin a current or former member of the KKK? Not seemingly. In a December 20 article, Newsweek wrote that Nehlin regurgitated a white supremacist meme that was initially promoted by the likes of David Duke. If this correlation is what Newsweek was alluding to, it wasn't clear in this article. A lot of very fake news. According to Breitbart's article, CNN inaccurately wrote that Breitbart and Bannon distanced themselves from Nehlin in the last 24 hours, when a Bannon representative had tweeted on December 19 that Bannon didn't know about Nehlin's comments. He does care, he sure as hell doesn't think it's a good thing. CNN later corrected this by writing they have recently moved to distance themselves from him. Breitbart noted that CNN's update accompanying the correction does not note that inaccurate information was pulled out of the article, and that both the CNN journalists and Newsweek's reference to Nehlin as Bannon's favorite was a false allegation. All of this is useful for Breitbart to point out, as it signals instances of inaccuracy and opinion in news reporting. However, Breitbart didn't take the high road. Instead, it used spin, dishonorable opinion and questionable reasoning to criticize and possibly discredit CNN. Here are some of the highlights.